I married a stranger for 1 year and accidentally fell in love when I was 26. My life fell apart in a single week. First, I lost my job. Then my father suffered a heart attack. And finally, we discovered the family home was on the verge of being repossessed because of debts I never knew existed. I was desperate. Every bank rejected my loan applications. Every relative suddenly became too busy to help. I had nowhere to turn. Then a stranger offered me a deal that sounded completely insane. His name was Ethan, rich, successful, cold, and according to every newspaper article I could find, one of the most eligible bachelors in the city. He needed a wife, temporarily. I needed money, immediately. His grandfather had one condition before handing over control of the family company. Ethan had to be married for at least 1 year, not engaged, not dating, married. A real legal marriage. The arrangement was simple. 1 year, separate bedrooms, no romance, no expectations. At the end of the year, we'd divorce and go our separate ways. In return, he would pay off my family's debt and help cover my father's medical treatment. It felt wrong, but watching my father lying in a hospital bed made the decision for me. 3 weeks later, I married a man I barely knew. The wedding was small. No family, no friends, no love, just signatures. I remember looking at Ethan afterward. He didn't smile, didn't celebrate. He simply said, "1 year, that's all." I nodded. 1 year. At first, living together was unbearable. He was distant, always working, always serious. We rarely spoke outside of what was necessary. Breakfast felt like a business meeting. Dinner felt like a negotiation. I kept counting down the days until the contract ended. Then something changed. One night I woke up to find him sitting alone on the balcony. It was raining. He looked completely different. Not cold, not powerful, just lonely. For the first time, I asked him a personal question. "Are you okay?" He laughed softly, the saddest laugh I'd ever heard. "My mother died when I was 12. I froze. He continued staring into the rain. "My father buried himself in work. After that, I learned not to depend on anyone." That was the first real conversation we'd ever had. After that night, walls slowly began to fall. I learned he secretly donated money to children's hospitals. He learned I still carried snacks in my purse because growing up poor made me afraid of going hungry. He discovered I loved old movies. I discovered he couldn't sleep without a nightlight because of childhood anxiety. Day by day, the stranger I married became my favorite person. Then something happened that changed everything. My father passed away. The grief shattered me. At the funeral, I could barely stand. Family members offered condolences and left. Friends stayed for a while and went home, but Ethan never moved. He stood beside me for hours, silently, holding my hand. When everyone else disappeared, he stayed. That night I broke down completely. I cried harder than I ever had in my life. And for the first time, Ethan wrapped his arms around me. No contract, no obligation, just comfort. I realized then that I was in trouble, because I wasn't supposed to love him. And yet, I already did. Months passed. The closer we became, the more terrified I felt. The contract had an expiration date. Our feelings didn't. Every smile hurt. Every happy memory felt temporary. Then one afternoon, I overheard a conversation. Ethan was speaking to his lawyer. "The divorce papers are ready." My heart stopped. Of course they were. That had always been the plan. But hearing it out loud felt like someone had punched me in the chest. That night, I locked myself in my room and cried. I spent hours convincing myself not to be selfish. This wasn't a real marriage. It was never supposed to become one. The final month arrived. Then the final week. Then the final day. Neither of us mentioned the divorce. Neither of us wanted to. But eventually the morning came. The papers sat on the table between us. Silence filled the room. I picked up the pen first. My hands were shaking, so were his. I signed my name, then pushed the papers toward him. He stared at them, for a long time. Finally he looked at me. His eyes were red, like he hadn't slept. "Is this really what you want?" he asked. The question shattered every wall I'd built. Tears instantly filled my eyes. "No," his expression broke. "Good." Before I could respond, he grabbed the divorce papers and tore them in half, then again. And again, pieces of paper scattered across the floor, For a second, neither of us spoke. Then he stepped forward. "I thought you only stayed because of the contract." I laughed through tears. "I thought you only cared because you had to." He shook his head, then whispered the words I'd been dying to hear. "I love you." Everything blurred. The next thing I knew, I was crying in his arms. And for the first time since the day we met, nothing felt temporary anymore. A year earlier, I married a stranger to save my family. I thought it would be the biggest mistake of my life. Instead, it became the greatest thing that ever happened to me. Because somewhere between the signatures, the silence, and the goodbye we never wanted, we accidentally fell in love.